All right. You good? You ready?
Yeah, ready?
Yeah.
All right. You're recording?
Oh, yeah, it's running.
All right, cool. All right. Let me take a couple minutes to just compose myself. Pull up my notes here. Oh shit! Actually, you know what? I've gotta go turn over my laundry real quick.
Oh, yeah, cool. I mean, should I stop the recording or are we good?
No, it shouldn't.
Okay, cool. I'll vamp. So, we're doing the JoJo's Part 6 episode today, and, Oh!
All right.
Wait. The laundry machine is upstairs. Wait.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
What?
That was too fast. There's no way you...
I mean, I didn't take my time, but like, yeah, I just went up there and did it. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was just telling everybody
cool.
We're doing the last episode of Stone Ocean, so this is kind of like...
Wait a minute.
What?
Hold up a second. I think we're gonna have to record a different time.
What do you mean?
My phone my iPad just gave me the notification. I got to go to work in like half an hour.
Did you not check your schedule?
I might have forgotten.
God damn it.
I'm sorry. They don't give me consistent hours.
All right. I mean, it's kind of too late to record at a different time, though. So, I mean, like, if it comes down to it, I kind of just have to record it right now. I can do it by myself.
Okay. I mean, I guess you can do a version yourself, and then we can figure something out later. All right?
Yeah, we can.
I'm sorry, man. This is
just
my
to
fault,
keep the schedule. If I have to do this one by myself.
My boss is on my ass lately. I can't be late again.
I believe it, man.
Okay.
It's rough work these days. So.
All right, I'll be back, man.
Yeah. Well. Sorry about that, guys. This is JoJo's Bizarre. What? Did you forget something? What?
Are you still here doing this shit, man?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, I know Stone Ocean is like a big deal, and they like do a big universe reset and everything, but like, you're still here talking about it?
You've been gone for like a second.
What are you talking about? I just got back from work.
There's no fucking way.
I literally I even put on the old dirty clothes and everything so that like, I didn't spend any time like having to sort through old laundry and shit. But yeah, wait, what the hell? Today's not Wednesday, is it?
No, today's Thursday. Wait, no, today's Friday.
What? Okay, now it's Friday. What?
Wait, now it's Saturday. I'm sure it's fine. Whatever.
I'm sure it's fine.
It's no problem.
My grandma just died.
What?
And I hit the Pentagon again!
Again?! That was a bit of if we started recording the podcast while Poochie was resetting the universe. Hey, guys.
Hey, guys. Hey, guys, this is Austin. No, I'm Josh.
I'm Brogan.
This is How to Otaku.
Yep. This is the end of JoJo's for right now.
Yeah.
Except for, I know we just did the intro, and it's going to be weird to have a cut here, but JoJo's Day happened literally just before this episode came out. It happened between us recording the podcast and me editing it and publishing it.
Yeah.
So here's me from the future to tell you some updates about JoJo's Day. Hopefully part 7's coming.
Yeah.
It happened. I don't have to explain it anymore. It happened. They announced some figures. They announced a new gacha game. And they announced the second best manga of all time is getting an anime adaptation. What more do you want? Back to the show.
Wow.
You guys know more than I do. So, I hate you.
That's right. You saw into the previous universe in which JoJo Day happened, and and now we're in this universe where it hasn't happened yet.
The universe reset is really taking a toll on
you've gotten a sense of what is fated to be on JoJo Day. But we do not have that luxury. So.
God, part six broke you, dude. Is that what happened? Or do I need to like get another chair and you lay down on the couch and we like talk about it? Or we like
that wouldn't be a bad format. But I mean, like, yeah, to a certain extent, like, I mean, so we could have recorded this yesterday, right?
Sure.
But I just watched the ending and I was like, I don't know if I should like take time to really chew on this or if I should just like go in with the confusion, because I don't honestly know if I'm going to have my head wrapped around it more by the end. And kind of no.
Kind of no.
I mean, like, I understand like what it is and why he did it, but like, I don't know. Maybe somebody knows more about this than me, but I don't understand the singularity.
Yo, what up?
I'm sure we'll have, beginning and end of universes, multiverse, explainer here.
So we will get to that.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is
but there's
the
a lot
singularity
of stuff
doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like the act and the action there within.
Yeah.
So
but like,
we'll get there.
But a lot of stuff happens before that, and not that any of it is particularly bad, because like, it's still, it's still JoJo's at the end of the day,
sure.
right? He still has a lock on like the whole, like the whole dynamics of every stand encounter and everything. But like, I do kind of get the sense in this last part that he is, is that you actually getting a notification about the Pentagon?
No. Holy shit, they hit the Pentagon. No.
But like, I do feel like this is kind of the point where he's like, I want to get to the reset, and so I can yada yada a little bit of it, and that leads me to like, not that there has never been any kind of confusing shit that happens in JoJo's, because there's a lot of confusing shit.
Right. I mean, like, type in JoJo's explained and then, like, just see the millions of autofill search results that come up.
But part of the bit of this show is also, like, within the span of, like, in the world of it, in, like, actual time is, like, half a second, but, like, they spend 12 seconds explaining what's going on.
And that's an anime thing. That's just a fucking anime thing.
It is an anime thing.
But it's the kind of thing that bothers me. Like, it's like a continuity error that's being forced by itself.
I don't know. I think it's like, it's just it creating its own, like, kind of sense of reality where it's like, I can take 12 seconds to think something, or I can take 30 seconds to think something through in the moment that between like when somebody is about to hit me and when they do.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, it's part of the world. And like, as long as like that is consistent and everybody and every single character is able to do that within
which
reason,
they are,
then, then it's fine.
Sure.
I can get along with it, especially because like, within JoJo's itself, the idea is just that, like, it's more about the head games than anything else.
Exactly.
There'll be a big beatdown at the end, maybe. But
and I think one of the best like head game things that we see, at least from what we've seen so far in what's animated, is Jailhouse Lock. Is the kind of like Prison Break. I can't remember. Is that what the movie is called, where the guy tattoos himself because he's got amnesia? And it's like, it's very much pulling from that. I
don't know what movie that is, actually, but
maybe it's a TV series.
I would love
I'm
to
not
see that,
100%
but
sure.
yeah, like,
but the whole like breakdown of that, where it's like Jolene can only remember 3 things at once, but she solves it by realizing she only needs to remember 2 things, which is I am in a fight and this is who I'm fighting.
Yeah. So real. But like, but to me it's like, there are certain things where, like, you know, the logic of it is not explained. You know, it used to do a really good job of, like, at least, like, explaining things enough that I was like, okay, I can get along with this. I know what the rules are. It's kind of getting to the point where, like, the stands are so weird and complex that I don't understand what's going on sometimes. Like, what's the guy? Underworld? Some of the physics of the Underworld fight I don't understand.
Sure.
You know, and then especially when we get to Made in Heaven, you know.
Right, which Made in Heaven is a big sticking point for
Yeah.
a lot of people. I need to scroll through and get a JoJo's wiki. Help me out here.
I love this because there are 2 JoJo's wikis, and, like, one of them is kind of mid, and then the other one is really good, and you have, yeah, it's just kind of like a coin toss of which one you're going to get.
Which one you get from Google, yeah.
Yeah. I think JoJo's Bizarre Wiki is the good one, right? JoJo's Bizarre Encyclopedia.
JoJo's Bizarre Encyclopedia.
That's the one I prefer. But, yeah, like, you know, and, like, again, stand fights are cool. I like them, but it has definitely gotten to the point where it's like,
oh, fuck.
I've seen so much of the formula.
He puts them in a cave, and then they're on a plane, and then,
Yeah.
Oh, my God, dude. That fight... well, and the answer is... It's literally mind games. It's not happening.
Yeah.
There's no physics to it. It's not happening.
Yeah, but then, like, you know, there's, like, a whole, like, we got to get to these 2 seats thing. And then, you know, like, oh, no, he dropped 3 kids into these seats. So they have to choose between, you know, letting the kids survive and letting them survive. Which, like, I don't know. I feel like you can get, like, 2 modestly slim women and 3 children into 2 seats. I think you can do it. You know, and they're like, well, even if we can double up, there's 1 extra kid. And it's like, one of you just split them? Like, I don't know.
I mean, like, just to have the kids sit in your lap?
Like, you know, this isn't like, you know, this isn't like math class, round division or whatever, you know, just like, split it up. This is like, this is life or death.
Sorry, kid. Well, and then, like, it's raining snails. I mean, like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of...
That one in
Part
particular.
6 gets bizarre. Like, I think...
Yeah.
And to the point where it
Bizarre.
is the first time while I was reading JoJo's, I kind of got pulled out of it a little bit. This was the first time for me. And it was mainly because I rushed through it. I was excited about Part 7. I knew it was on the horizon. I was trying to get there. And so there's some stuff that initially I just like glossed over or missed or didn't like understand the importance of. And some of that is that the end of Part 6 is a little frenetic, a little more so than a lot of the rest of JoJo's.
Sure.
It's got a place it's trying to get to, and it's going to get
It's definitely like, so, you know, we kind of talked about this, like, you know, there are certain arcs in JoJo's where it's like, you know, they're on an adventure, you know, going from A to B, right? And then there are other ones that are like the whole thing is contained to one location.
Right.
Or like, you know, even if it's like kind of a broad location like Italy, it's still like, you know, it's in a very specific place.
Right.
Right. This is kind of splitting the difference where it's like, you know, we stay in the prison for a long while, but then once they finally break out, there is an A to B segment to it.
Right, and it feels like... Well, right, exactly. It feels like we've been stuck in this one location. Not stuck. I mean, I say stuck, yes, absolutely. That's the right word. But I'm not in like a pejorative sense, because it's like, it's a prison. You're supposed to feel stuck there.
Yeah.
And then you get out, and it's like this fucking mad dash across the entirety of Florida. You're going from the fucking northern Everglades, where the prison is, in the swamp, all the way down to like the middle, like the beach areas where like Orlando is.
Yeah. They should have gone down to Miami. There should have been a Will Smith cameo. Been like, hey, what's up? I'm Will Smith.
There ain't no Mickey. This shit ain't Disney. the one thing they left out, which, like, you know, in terms of adapting
That stand is
the
crazy,
end of
yeah.
part, that, right? I mean, just like there's so much about what's going on in the end
Yeah.
of part 6 that's like, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. There's too much going on at the end of part 6. And a lot of it's really dope and a lot of it's really cool. And there's some interesting things and concepts that are being played with. But none of it's really given a whole lot of breathing room. Which I think is what leads some people, like, especially if you're rushing through it like I did, leads some people to kind of like, that wasn't as good as part 5. But I still think that, like, the character dynamics and the relationships that they have and just like the characters themselves are so strong in part 6 that a lot of that
Yeah.
makes up for it, even in like the character interactions that we see during the, like, excuse me, like the underworld or the, I can't remember Dio's kid's Stan's name, that fucking
Sea-Moon?
Sea-Moon, yes. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just wild. I really don't know how to put words to any of it.
It's definitely
other than-
him, like, you know, kind of seeing the end of it and then, like, you know, throwing the kitchen sink in. And
kind of
being
just like seeing what he can get away with.
Yeah.
Because he's like, we have set this up. I know what I'm doing. I know that this is the end of the storyline that I am telling right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to start a new storyline.
And it's also the end of, like, stands as a concept, right?
No.
No, really?
No,
There's more stands?
There's more stands, yeah.
I thought we were done with stands.
We're
That
not
was
done
the
with
implication
stands.
I got.
We're
But
not done with stands.
okay.
But it's the end of, like, Joestar Bloodline versus Dio.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
it's kind of like that's what this is the end of. And it's kind of weird because it doesn't necessarily pay off that emotion as strongly as, like, part 3 does.
Yeah, like
where
the whole,
it's-
like, intergenerational, you know, like, this is, you know, completing a saga that started with Jonathan and is
Right.
now coming back. Like, yeah, that's kind of true, you know?
And there's still something, it's a really interesting idea, but it doesn't necessarily, I think, hit me that hard.
Yeah.
Of kind of this, like, zealot who is a religious follower of Dio. It's kind of like, we've dealt with Dio, but we haven't dealt with Dio. His influence is like worldwide. He has, like, there is no escape from this. His presence is going to, like, even though we killed him and he's dead and he's gone,
Yeah.
there are people who are trying to bring him back.
Yeah.
And so, like, that is interesting because it kind of pulls in more of, like, what Dio was really strong
Bringing
at.
back old evils we thought we were done with. Anyone?
But I don't know. I'm in two minds about it because, like, no, I'm not. Part 6 is great. I love Part 6.
Part 6 is really good.
I think
It's not the strongest ending.
it's not the strongest ending, which is crazy because, especially with the animation.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they rendered Eyes Over Heaven is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, just like when that happened, I was like, oh, it's like, this is like 2001 shit. You know? This is like, whoa, we're hitting the universes going in circles and there's going to be multiple universes and, like, you know.
It, like, and literally until the very end, I mean, and even then, a lot of people have a lot of questions, myself included. Yeah. But literally until you hit the very end, you have no idea what happened.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, holy shit, he just did it.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of part of the point, right? You know, you're definitely supposed to be, at least in that moment, kind of in Emporio's shoes, where it's like, oh, fuck, he did it. It's the end, you know? And, like, that's kind of the thing that JoJo's is constantly doing, is just, like, you know, it's always putting you, it's like the busted stand thing where it's like, this stand is so busted, how the hell are they going to defeat it? And then it's like, oh, why didn't I think of that?
Oh, throw a rock at his head.
Yeah.
What the fuck? This guy's stand is literally the sun. How do we beat that?
I would just grab a dolphin.
Just grab a dolphin. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's like, I think, and we haven't really talked a lot about
what happens,
but I think really the majority of what people are interested, myself included, about the end of part 6 is Eyes Over Heaven or Made in Heaven.
I mean, we should definitely talk about some things that happen in between then, right? Like, there's the prison break sequence, which like...
Right, Jailhouse Lock, which is really... I think that's one of the stronger fights in the series.
I think it's all right, though I think it's weird that, like, they defeat Jailhouse Lock. I don't understand entirely how they do it, because, like, at some point she's, like, incapacitated and, like, she's unable to use her stand in a way. But, like, that's not really how the stand works. No. So, like, whatever, it's fine. But then, like, they go to Hermes, they're like, hey, we're breaking out of prison. She's like, all right, let's break out of prison. Next episode, they're out of prison. And I'm like,
right.
If we've set up
if you put somebody with stands in a prison break,
they're going to do it pretty quickly.
They're right.
But at the same time, it's like...
kind of the promise of putting them in the prison is we're going to get, like, an Ocean's 11 ass prison break. That doesn't happen.
They could even kind of yada yada. If it was like, 3 to 5 minutes of them breaking out of prison, that'd be fine, Just make it exciting and interesting, because, like, that's the payoff to the whole, like, being stuck in prison thing they've been setting up.
Right.
And it's like, we get Jailhouse Lock, but then, like, we don't get anything else after that. And it's just like... I'm not sure if the manga does that, or if the manga is similarly just like, and then they got out of prison,
It's been too long since I've read that specific portion of the manga to tell you whether or not, like, if there is more, there is not significantly more. They didn't cut a ton. Like, they're pretty good with their adaptations, David is, about JoJo's at the very least.
Yeah.
So, like, I wouldn't say there's any substantial missing content, but, there may be a couple extra panels that give you a little something you might have missed.
Yeah. But then, after they got out of prison, it's like, okay, this dude is looking to be in a specific coordinates during the new moon.
Right.
And it's like, okay.
So we know where, we know when. The coordinates are literally at NASA, yes.
Which, like... You know what? Fine. I'm a space nerd. I'm cool with that.
Well, okay. And so then we get to the part... I'm again skipping forward, but you put Cape Canaveral in my mind, and I'm just thinking of this set piece of them... The road fucking inverts Inception style, and they are trying to, like... anti-gravity, like, weather report, and, like, climb their way up this fucking wall to get to Cape Canaveral.
And it's not exactly how clear, like, how much space has had this inverted, gravity, but, like, it's still a cool set piece. Like, I've had, like, sometimes I just think of, like, what would happen if X, Y, Z, and, like... what would happen if suddenly gravity inverted and like and everything fell on the ceiling and I was
right. Like, well, what if I just walked through a gravity inversion zone?
How long would this house stand if gravity suddenly inverted and everything was pulling out?
Right. If I walked into a Mario Galaxy gravity inversion zone and the gravity just went left, what would happen?
Yeah, and like. Just the crazy shit that you can think of happening in any other series, and it's like, like we've said, like he's doing superheroes better than anybody's ever done.
It's so interesting because, like, I mean, when you set up superheroes, it's like realistically the sky's the limit. Yeah. You could do whatever you wanted to, and they kind of just don't really, from what I see at the very least. I understand the comics get way more out there. Yeah. My only exposure has been like a handful of comic books and like a couple of the Marvel movies, and I'm just not impressed.
The real problem with comics is that like most of the characters are like, okay, so my powers are A, B, C, D, and E, and like they're pretty broad powers generally speaking. But then JoJo's just like, what
My
if we
power-
took like the most specific, like, you know, fucking Silver Age characters with like the most specific powers,
Right.
but then like actually extrapolated on those powers in an interesting
My power
way.
is I can make bubbles.
Yeah.
But the bubbles can remove properties from things. And it's like, when you narrow it down that much, you're putting so many you think you're putting so many limitations on it.
Yeah.
But like, the more specific the power is, the more clever ways you get to show off using it. Because if you sit there and you think about, what can I do with this power? How can I bend the rules to my benefit? Which is what Araki is really good at. He's good at kind of establishing rules and then bending them.
Yeah.
And just like seeing where we can take that and seeing where, like, what is the logical extreme of this power? And we will fully explore that.
Yeah, and like, you know, and then when you compare it to like, you know, even the best Superman comics, right? Like All-Star Superman, it's like, you know, they're exploring a cool concept within Superman's lore, but like when it comes time for him to actually like, you know, fight another supervillain or a monster or whatever, it's just like laser beams.
Do they have kryptonite with them?
Yeah.
Do they have pink kryptonite that makes him gay? No, then he wins.
Yeah.
Yes, then he finds a way to get rid of the kryptonite, and then he wins.
Yeah, and like it's just one of those things where it's like if he just had like if he could just fly and have laser vision, if it was just those two things, then it might be more interesting because it's like, oh, he has to think about like, you know, how to get around certain situations and use it to benefit, you know?
Right. When you say, here is Kal-El, empowered
Yes.
by the yellow sun of the earth, he is literally fucking invincible. He has X-ray eyes. He has laser vision. He has heat vision. He can blow cold breath. He is stronger and faster than anything that's ever walked the earth.
Yeah.
What's an interesting fight against the strongest thing that's ever walked the planet?
Yeah.
And the closest answer to that is Batman versus Superman. And I don't know if you've seen Batman versus Superman or not.
I have it's bad.
It's bad.
I saw the 3-hour cut, and that was also bad. A little more coherent, but still bad.
How do you know that name? How do you know that name? So, like, shout out to the one guy in the comments that said, bring back Snyderverse. But,
Yeah, you know, wishing the best for you. You know,
rest in peace.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we all have to have our own Sisyphean battles, right?
God, this rock's really fucking heavy.
That's the funny thing about him, though, is that like Zack Snyder seems happier with his Netflix deal than he ever has been. He literally gets to make whatever the fuck he wants at Netflix, and they're just like, okay, well, as long as we get a PG-13 cut, we'll let you make it, and then you can have an R-rated cut too.
Which, like, I mean, that sounds like the perfect deal.
Yeah, that's perfect
For a guy
him.
like Zack
Yeah.
Snyder.
Yeah, like, you know, and he just gets to make, you know, dumb versions of Star Wars and of Dawn of the Dead and stuff, you know.
Right, which
That's
is
where
like,
that's his wheelhouse.
how-
Don't give him, like, you know, Frank Miller or, you know, Alan Moore.
Last thing about Zack Snyder before we get back to JoJo's. How do you make Star Wars but worse? How is that possible?
You haven't seen Rebel Moon?
No, I haven't seen it because I've heard that it's Star Wars but worse. How is that possible?
What if we put an unnecessary rape scene into the 30-minute mark?
What? Okay, that, you know, fuck Zack Snyder. Hirohiko Araki is the smartest man to ever walk the planet, and he's also probably a vampire.
Yeah. But yeah, so like anyway, they break out of prison and like Poochie's got head on him because, you know, he locked him up for a few days, but like
Right, and Poochie's got the green baby now.
yeah, he's got the green baby, which, you know, they kind of like doesn't he get like absorbed by him at some point? It's just like, oh, now you're part of me, and
Agree Baby is just part of him.
And now like he's trying to go to the grocery store, but then he makes some lady drop her eggs or whatever.
In this economy.
In this economy, goddamn. Actually, you know what? I went to Aldi the other day, like $5 carton of eggs.
Yeah, Aldi is pretty solid. Yeah. I shop. We're not sponsored, but if Aldi wants to sponsor me, I will take it, dude. Yeah. I love Aldi. It's not the best quality groceries you will get anywhere.
Yeah.
But like, it's all good stuff, and it's cheap. It's cheap as dirt. It's like what groceries should cost.
It's like Sam's Club, but you don't need a membership, and I don't feel like intimidated walking in.
Right, and it's not literally like unfeasible amounts of things. Like it's like you can go and you can get a pack of cheese for $1.50.
Yeah, it's definitely great for like stocking up on like specific staple goods.
Right.
Maybe if you want something more specific, you go across the street. But.
So thanks Aldi. Thanks Aldi. We would love to do a sponsor deal with you.
Use promo code How to Otaku
when you check out. If enough people type How to Otaku into the promo code field on Aldi.com doing online checkouts, they will start asking questions. So.
Just breaking news: random anime podcast DDoS is
my God.
Supermarket brand Aldi.
I will say, kind of going back to the like generational beef, which is like the core of this arc of JoJo's parts 1 through 6. Even though we have 3 of Dio's kids in this.
Yeah.
And a religious zealot of Poochie who believes that Dio is actually the second coming of God and knows how to achieve heaven. I think part 5 is stronger with no connection at all beyond Giorno is
interesting.
The mix of Jonathan and Dio. I as much as they kind of hammer onto it, I do not feel Dio's presence in this as much as they might want me to.
Sure. I think that is definitely part of the thing, is just that, like, if you're looking for, if you're looking for this as a culmination of, like, the entire arc, and you want, like, a lot of, a lot of things to be tied up nice and neat, it's not really that, It's like... not. They're not going to, like, accidentally resurrect Dio and then accidentally resurrect Jonathan. And that's like, they're going to punch.
And I wouldn't want that. Yeah. And to Araki's credit, he does a very good job of making each part very self-contained.
Jolene never hears the voices of the Joestar Force ghosts.
Yeah, exactly.
Right before she redirects Poochie's lightning bolts and kills him again.
Could watch part 6 with no other context. You could start at part 6 with no other context and be fine.
You could probably do it. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it because I think JoJo's is great and you should watch all of it.
Yeah. No part skippers.
No part skippers. But like the way that it is formatted, you could do that. And that means that we don't have a lot of like loose ends that we need to tie up unless we create them. And so you just don't really get that from this. It doesn't really give you the kind of like celebration of the end of JoJo's.
I will say, like, the one thing that does really do that is like some of the kind of like the non-diegetic elements, right? Like the opening is very, the opening of that last episode is definitely like, hype as shit.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen because of this. And then like, it was a little bit of a letdown from that, but it's fine. And then like, they have the whole like, the last fucking panel or whatever, they do the spread of the Joestar faces. And then it's like, this is the end of part 6, right? It's
right.
Like, oh, okay. Whew.
That's David. That's David that's doing that.
Yeah.
And
of course they bring back Roundabout, which is nice. They even in the end credits they have like the whole like here's part 1, part 2, you know, like,
Right.
but it's all, again, non-diegetic. It's not a part
Right.
of the story of the episode.
Right.
Right.
Which again, it's not trying to be that. It doesn't need to be that because there are no loose ends. I wish for that. I want that. But like, that's what JoJo's Eyes Over Heaven are for the fucking PlayStation 4 is for, you know? That's for my non-canon, like, oh, I get to see Joseph and Giorno beat the absolute daylights out of Bucciarati. You know, like that. Yeah. So it exists. It's out there. And this doesn't need to be that. But like, I do understand kind of some disappointment in it not being that.
Yeah, definitely. But like, you know, onto the little like the dealings.
The dealings. The crotch goblins.
Yeah, he just kind of like finds them. They all kind of like, well, actually, don't they all like coincidentally get injured at the same hospital, and then like, you know, they have stands that unlock at a certain point, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna send you all off one at a time, and it's like, I mean, I get it, but like, if you have 3 guys,
right, and they're all the sons of Dio, and they have stands that you presume are pretty strong, and you really want to take care of this problem, don't you just want to send all 3 at once?
Yeah. And even be there yourself, maybe? Like, you know.
Don't you just want to take care of this problem?
Yeah.
Not really, apparently. But
and we've never seen 3 enemy stands at once, right? We've seen 2, but never 3.
And most of the double battles that we get are like exclusively in part 5.
Yeah. Like, you know, and like they tend to be kind of like complementary powers, you know?
Right. Like I think the closest we get to like a sure enough double battle in part 6 is, and it's not even a real double battle because it's just they're only fighting the one dude.
Yeah.
But Jolene and Weather Report in the like hangar when he does like the spacesuits.
Well, no, though they have the there's the one where where Jotaro is taken out, where it's Father Pucci and the other guy who could
John Gallier.
Yeah, John Gallier. Yeah. So like they have done it before, you know. But the guy who can like
part 5 was like focused on that. Like that
Yeah.
was the whole dynamic of part 5. And they kind of stepped away from it a little bit.
Yeah. You know, which is a little bit disappointing, but you know, like these stand battles are all right. Like, you know,
well, and it's already like it's already so hard to keep up with some of this shit. Could you imagine if we had like a fucking Avengers Endgame style, like every fucking stand is fighting at once? Like,
I think they could try it.
I want to see it. I want it to happen at some point.
It would be tough to do, especially in manga form, because, you know, like part of the reason why, you know, all of these, you know, people, we were talking earlier about, you know, like the over explanation of what's going on vocally.
It's all about mind games, though.
But like, well, in this it's all about mind games, but it's also like in a manga, it is harder to convey what is going on visually,
right?
Just because you don't have motion,
especially in a thing like JoJo's, where
so they do have to explain it a little bit vocally,
right?
And then that's just them retranslating all of the dialogue directly,
right?
And you know, and we're doing Cowboy Bebop next, but I bet we'll have a great discussion about how that just doesn't do any of that because it's not.
No, because you don't fucking need to.
Yeah,
it was never manga. You don't have to explain people's internal dialogues because you can show that shit.
Yeah, which by the way, Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop next episode.
Next episode, stay tuned. But yeah, like, but these are good stand battles. I really like I really like the one with where it like brings the fictional characters to life. That one's fun because it's like it's not just a thing that is localized to their area.
No, it's
global. Worldwide.
It's like, worldwide. We start seeing news reports of like the fucking the big bad wolf blowing down the 3 little pigs' house.
And Batman's around somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, just extrapolate this, and what they show in the manga is even more, like, they could just get away with more, because they're not really, I mean, like, especially at the time it was published in Jump, they weren't doing, like, global publications and things like that.
But
So,
the first time they name dropped Batman, I was like, oh, that makes sense because Warner Brothers Japan is at the beginning of every episode. And I'm like, if they just got permission from Warner Brothers to be like, hey, here's Batman for a few seconds.
Bugs Bunny?
Yeah, like that would be cool.
Right,
That would be insane. I would be like, holy shit, it's fucking Roger Rabbit again.
Right,
But no.
and it's like that's the way that they could adapt it because like you could take away the if it ain't Mickey Mouse, that shit ain't Disney.
Yeah.
You could say if there ain't no Bugs Bunny, that shit ain't Looney Tunes. They didn't do that,
Yeah.
but like I will say they did more than I thought they could get away with in bringing this to screen. Because, like, how do you just name drop Mickey Mouse and just get away with it if we've been doing the past 5 seasons without being able to say, Green Day, you know?
Yeah, like, they do get away with quite a bit. Though, like, obviously the central focus is, like, these storybook characters and, like...
A lot of them are pretty,
Yeah.
What's it called? Open domain, free domain?
Yeah, public domain
Public
stuff.
domain, yeah.
Yeah. Which, like, I don't know how that works exactly in Japan, but I imagine with these stories, they got to be public domain there, too, Unless, like, some guy in Japan is just like, I own all the rights to the Grimm's Brothers characters. Pay me $5 billion.
Until this sword is like I don't know what Japanese copyright culture is like. I know their legal culture is just as bad, if not worse, than how it's depicted in Phoenix Wright. So I could only imagine that it's like, okay, so this guy wrote a book about a character and he had this sword. And until this sword is rusted to nothing, this man holds full legal ownership in the afterlife.
I actually think it's the opposite because there's a guy, I think his channel's name is Moon Channel or something like that. He's this guy who just like explains a lot of like, law things and stuff, and especially how it relates to like video games and anime and stuff. And he had a video where he's like, this is the reason why Nintendo is always copyright striking shit. It's because if you don't
protect it,
if you don't protect it,
goes
you
away.
can't lose it.
Yeah.
Like they literally had to do an ad campaign in the 90s where it's like, a Nintendo is not a catch-all term for any game system. I remember
because like you just the ever-going plague of your grandma calling every gaming console the Nintendo.
Yeah.
They actually had to like legally say something.
Yeah.
Or else Nintendo would just become a catch-all term for game consoles.
Yeah. But yeah, like that sort of shit. And it's like, but I wasn't aware of the part where like the Three Little Pigs mom cut the wolf open. I think they kind of skipped that part in a lot of adaptations in the West.
Oh, you didn't remember the part where Cinderella's sisters got their eyes pecked out by crows?
I don't remember that part, no. But that's part of the Disney thing, right? It's just that like they take all these stories and cut out like the darker parts and just leave in like the part that's available for
the part that's marketable and we can sell this movie in China.
Yep. That wasn't as big deal in the 40s for China.
No,
but
I wonder why.
China's like, hey, we got our own thing going on here. We don't really need Mickey Mouse. Thanks, though.
Jesus.
Speaking of weird race relations, let's talk about let's talk about Weather Report for a second.
Let's talk about Weather Report for a second.
What the fuck?
I mean, it's America, dude. No, I really don't know. how to explain Araki's want to include that portion in the story.
Yeah.
Because, like, it is an interesting character background, and it shows some kind of understanding of, oh, fuck, new battery in the camera. Monty Python intermission music. Yeah!
All right. You were talking about Araki wanting to include.
I haven't done any research on, like, this specific bit of the manga or the show. I haven't been like, hey, yo, why Araki write that shit? I feel like it's kind of like, and this was written in, like, I think the early 2000s, and the period of time where the weather report background would have taken place is like the mid to late 80s or so.
I think it was actually, wasn't it like 1972 or 1973, something like that?
If they put an explicit date
it's
on
like,
it, I don't remember exactly.
So it's like, it's about a decade after like the Civil Rights Act,
sure,
right? You know, give or take. But like, obviously, like lynchings never have stopped. You
right.
know,
I mean, it's still swamp ass Florida, and
you know, but like, first of all, it's a little weird that, like, you know, it's happening in that specific period of time, right? You know, like, they could have made Weather Report 10 years older and then have it set back in the 60s, and, like, you know, it would make a little more sense. But, like, you know, to me, like, I think the read on it I have is that, like, you know, first of all, like, not to say that every black character needs to look black, obviously, right? Like, it's not necessarily a problem that, like, it's, you know, that Weather Report's racial identity is not super clear just visually.
I will also say it's probably better, at least for the time period and the, you know, general Japanese art culture. I prefer this over the potential depiction of Weather Report with big old circular lips. And
that's true, though they don't do that with Avdol.
No, they don't do that with Avdol.
So, like, and I haven't read the manga, but I assume they don't do that with Avdol in the manga either.
No.
So, like, you know, I think Araki was fine on that part. But, like, you know, I'm not saying that, like, if you have a black character, they need to be obviously black. But, like, part of the thing is just that, like, this show, or I guess the story in general, doesn't want to address his black identity until it is relevant for the purposes of showing black pain.
Right.
That's kind of the problem I have.
Sure.
You know, and it's only interested in that element of his identity. It's not interested in anything else. Which,
I mean, to be fair to that point, you're absolutely right, but there's not a ton of characterization for Weather Report point blank at all. Like, his whole thing is kind of, he's just quiet and shut in and doesn't talk a lot, and
but part of that's also that his memory has been taken away, so it's just like he doesn't have anything to draw upon. But, like, you know, it's just, it's weird, you know? It's a weird choice that is like, okay, we're going to explicitly put you in this identity group and then only address the tough parts of that and not, you know, like, anything else about it, you know? And it only comes up in his backstory, right? It's just not a thing that informs the character in any other way. And I think it's like, you know, I'm not saying that that's how, you know, that's how he views all black people, because, like, Father Pucci has the same lineage, right? Because he's his brother, and, like, you know, he is treated as, like, a fully fleshed out character who's like, did you break something? There we go.
Sorry.
But yeah, but he's treated like his own character, and like, while his black identity doesn't really inform the way he goes about in the world, like, he's, his skin is darker, right? So he's like, it's visible, right? And like, he, it doesn't just like, it doesn't treat his backstory as like a thing where they need to address that sort of stuff and nothing else, It's better to not say anything, in my opinion, than to just be like, yeah, he's black, and then he experienced like one really bad racism, but that's like the only thing we're gonna say about it, And like, I don't know, like, it just, like, to me, it's like, it's a little weird, And especially to just throw it in as like a last hat thing. I don't think that Araki thought that, Weather Report was black the whole time he developed the character. Right? It was not a starting off point. He might not have even started writing him as black, or with the intention of him having a black identity, right? It might have been a thing where it's like, what's his backstory? Oh, well, I need this crazy violent thing to happen to him. What's a crazy violent thing that happens in America? I'm spitballing. I'm not trying to like, Talk to me.
I mean, I don't know, because I'm like, I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I just like, I very much don't get that sense from it. It's very much like, I don't feel like, I don't feel like it was an afterthought. I don't feel like, I don't know. I just like, I don't think about it in that much, in those many terms, I guess. I just like, I don't consider it that way.
This is not a character assassination of Hirohiko Araki on my part. I'm not trying to say he's racist or anything.
Well, it certainly doesn't give the sense that it's racist or even like racially motivated. I think I get the sense that it's more to kind of like, I don't know.
I think that if you want to have a more generous read of it, it's like he's trying to, like, when he's coming up with this character background and he's like, okay, I need this kind of traumatic event to happen, and I'm in this modern American setting, and I'm actually like investigating it more so than I got to with, part 2 where we're briefly in America.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, then maybe I can address some of the pain that exists in the fabric of America.
That's more what I get the sense. That's more the reading that I get.
Okay.
I think it's more just kind of, I am in America.
Yeah.
This is a fundamental aspect of the history of the United States. Mm-hmm. For better or for worse, they did that shit. En masse. For decades. It still happens. I would hope to say not as much, but I mean, like, they just, it's not reported on. It's intentionally hidden. It's like, it's a problem. Racism is a problem in the United States. And I think that that's kind of the start and end of the intention behind it.
Yeah.
For better and for worse. Again, like, if you want to make the criticism that we would have loved to see a more fully realized character out of Weather Report, I get that. Because he is literally lobotomized for a severe portion of the story. But I don't get any malice out of it or any like,
that's definitely not my
ill
implication.
intention. I'm not saying that it was necessarily. I feel like I misspoke there, but I'm not like, I don't get any sense from it other than like, he's writing a story in a location, and as he does with all locations that he writes stories in, he puts in some amount of research. And it's like, while this is not directly related to the story or the events that I am telling right now, it is a problem in this area, and my characters in some way, shape, or form have probably interacted with it or been the victim to it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a more generous reading, and we don't know the man, And again, I'm not trying to
We're literally just spitballing.
I'm not trying to say that say that he's a bad person or anything. It's more just that to me it speaks to just I mean, obviously he was also writing this 2 decades ago, right?
Right.
It's a little bit different, and he's on the other side of the world. He doesn't he just doesn't.
He's not immersed in it. He's not here every day.
Not there's not the same sense, at least in his culture, that he needs to be super sensitive with it, and especially at the time period, whereas not even America was being particularly sensitive about it, right? That chapter was probably written the same year that Crash won Best Picture. So
that chapter was written briefly after 9/11.
Oh, so that was 5 years before Crash won Best Picture. So I'll give him a little bit of leeway there. America was not processing racism to the same degree that...
Certainly not.
America
was currently in the throes of Muslim equals evil.
Yeah, which, to Iraqi's credit, he threw a man of Islamic descent into Part 3 and just treated him like a dude.
And he's one of the best characters in the show.
Yeah, he's just great. But, but yeah, it's just weird. It comes...
Oh, I get it. It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere. And it's just so... And just the...
It's playing on very visceral emotions that are actual tangible to...
Yeah, and not only that, but it's with the information you're given up to that point, it is not a conclusion that you could... It's not a thing that you could reasonably see coming, right? Just because of the fact that, nothing about Weather Report presents as...
I mean, I have sat for probably 7 years now with the knowledge that Weather Report and Poochie are brothers.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I can't think of knowing that before learning it.
Yeah. Anyways, I think I've said all I need to say about it. It's not, it's not a huge issue. It's just a weird thing that happens. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I feel like women committing suicide is kind of a common thing that happens. It happens a few times throughout the show, right? And it happens here, right? Where, she just drops off the cliff at the end, and then...
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think of what else you're talking about, and the first thing that's coming to my mind is from Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe.
Yeah. There's also the woman who has the rock at the end of Part 5 and jumps off the building. It's happened a few times, and I don't know. It's just it's a little bit weird, but
if I had a nickel for every time.
I feel like Iraqi's a little weird when he's trying to address real violence and traumatic things, and then what he gets, and then it's just okay, so now moving on from that, what if this guy shot bubbles?
It's on a pendulum. It's on a severe pendulum.
What if this guy could turn the clouds into snails that when they touched you turned you into a snail?
Made you think you were a snail.
Which, that's insane. I don't understand how Weather Report goes that far.
I don't even think... Well, before I say this, I want to couch it in as many I don't fucking know what I'm talking about as possible. But I'm pretty sure there is, some form of snail or mollusk that has some sort of, neurotoxin that... I don't think it makes you think you're a snail, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some you instantly die if you touch this slug.
Yeah, no. That's definitely a thing. But so they try to kind of do this with it's a subliminal messaging thing, right? It's the rain refracts light in a specific way, and that can subliminally do something to you, right? And I don't know if I believe that sort of thing, right? They show the thing where it's like, you're just watching a movie and then there's like one frame of a Coca-Cola ad and it's like, oh, now suddenly you just really, really, really want a Coca-Cola and you don't know why.
Me watching Fight Club and there's one frame of Brad Pitt and it's like, damn, I really want to fuck Brad Pitt.
I'm not a psychologist, but I don't think it's that deep. Especially when we're talking about Coca-Cola, one of the most advertised products in the world,
Man, I could go for a Dr. Pepper.
Me getting you this Dr. Pepper strawberries and cream that was not subliminal.
That was not subliminal. That was like direct.
That was direct. That was me saying, no, that was literally me buying you a product. But
here's money. Get this.
Get this. But yeah, so, but like I don't know how that turns the rain into snails. I don't know how that then when you touch the snail, it turns you into a snail, because that doesn't involve the water at all.
As his stand weather report, and his stand weather report, and his stand weather report, and his stand weather report.
Hirohiko Araki is just like,
weather report.
This one stand can do anything.
You remember that super guy we were talking about earlier? The Calvin guy?
Yeah. Which, like, I don't know, I kind of got it when it was like, okay, like he can make it rain frogs, because it's like, well, okay, the frogs are, it's coming from the weather, so it's just like, well he can turn the weather into anything, I guess.
The answer is Araki read somewhere that in Florida, windspouts can literally pick up animals, and rainstorms will drop those animals back to Earth.
Yeah.
And he said that's weather report's power.
Yeah.
So, which is technically a thing that has happened before.
Yeah.
Like, it has rained frogs in Florida before.
Yeah.
It's just his power to make it do that, I guess. He can control the weather. And so if he wants to say, make a tornado that picks up a bunch of poison dart frogs, and then make a rain that rains poison dart frogs.
Yeah.
He do that, I guess.
Yeah. And so I guess he picked up those snails. I guess that much makes sense. But the snail that turns you into a snail, that's the real sticking point. It's just like, okay, so, it's kind of a neat set piece where it's just this, everybody's turning into a snail. But been there, seen that,
Have you?
Not in real life, but...
When have you seen that? In what else? Oh.
Yeah, it was a lucky man. Welcome to How to Otaku, the show where I introduce Brogan to anime.
Fucking apparently. Where I introduce Brogan to anime he's already seen. I gotta figure out when Uzumaki was published, because Uzumaki might be a JoJo's reference.
Oh, really? That would be sick.
Wait, Uzumaki was published in the year 2000. So it's actually more likely...
That's the film.
That's the film?
Yeah. The manga was likely published a year or two before that, if I had to guess. Doing on-the-fly research in here.
1999. So
this is a neato reference.
Uzumaki came out right after Part 6,
which
began publication.
Which, you know what? There's the bit later on where, the manga artist is trying to draw a comic, and he's like, oh, no, I can't, And it's just like, yeah, I believe Araki reads other manga, and he read this, and he's like, hey, how can I incorporate that? And he's like, stand...
The stand that rains snails that turns you into snails.
That turns you into a snail. Of course. But again, I don't get where the subliminal messaging side of that comes into play.
I think you're getting stuck on the snails the same way I got stuck on the look back alternate universe.
Yeah, but that's kind of more metaphorical. This is I've socially manipulated you to revert back in evolutionary history.
Weather report refracted the snails off the rain. I don't know. It's weather report. Future
world's most
made of.
World's most busted stand. Oh my god.
It is. I mean, for a long time, people were like, wait a minute, is Weather Report the strongest stand in JoJo's?
I think he is.
He's not. It's Golden Experience Requiem. It's always Golden Experience Requiem until you think about Wonder of You. And then maybe it's Wonder of You. We'll get there, guys. I promise.
But yeah, but like, once we dispatch of those guys, and it's like, okay, now we're at Cape Canaveral, you know, Father Pucci can now control gravity. You know, that fight is really cool. Especially the whole, like, you know, they're trying to fucking, you know, climb up around shit. And, like, he can invert things, the gravity of things.
Yeah.
And, like, that was nasty, right? When you first see Jolene's hand invert.
Oh, my God,
oh, my
dude.
fucking God.
It's just, like, even you might point at me and say, that's a JoJo's Glazer. But, like, even you can tell just from having this conversation with me. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Like, even the shit like the snails. Like, I get it. That's weird, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, if I step away from it for a second and I, like, drop the bit, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
When I get back to, like, just my vibes and what I think about it, fuck yeah, dude. That shit's dope.
Yeah, that's the thing about JoJo's, is that, like, at its worst, it is, like, you know, like, weird and, like, difficult to explain and even occasionally problematic in my view, but, like, at its best, it is just the coolest shit you've ever seen.
Exactly.
And it is more often the coolest shit you've ever seen than it is anything else.
I say this about some things, but, like, especially upon first viewing, the what the fucks per minute are through the roof. And I think that's how I rate my enjoyment of a lot of stuff. I like things that make me go, what the fuck? Those are the things that I enjoy the most. Devil May Cry, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Some third example.
You like two things. That's pretty good.
I like two things. I like Devil May Cry and I like JoJo.
If everybody liked two things, the world would be a happier place. If Zack Snyder fans actually liked two things, they would be much happier.
Do Zack Snyder fans even like Zack Snyder's movies?
I have no
Because
clue.
all I hear them do is complain.
Oh my god, our comment section is going to be so bad.
This episode is a clusterfuck in the best possible way.
That's what I think our show is needed, actually, is more, like, tangents. Tangents are good. That's what podcasting is made for.
Exactly. I agree. But I think it is time that we, like, talk about...
Well, we have to talk about Jotaro first.
Rocking up on a dolphin.
Actually, right before we get to Jotaro, let's circle back to Cinderella. That
we can circle back to Cinderella.
We didn't discuss this. We didn't discuss this last episode, but like the whole this guy is like smitten with Jolene on first sight,
right?
And you know, and now it kind of like culminates in like he's literally trying to like propose to her and shit, and like
and Asui, yeah,
it's I don't get it, but okay. I mean, like, Jolene is cool, but, like, you know, what's your deal, dude?
He's been in prison for fucking his whole life.
That's true. That's true. He has been in prison for a very long time. And he's like, wow, a competent woman I get to spend time with? Insane.
So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't get it. Jolene's great, but, like...
She's not into you, dude. That's the other thing, is like, if it were reciprocal, that would be one thing, but like, she just like does not show interest in him at all.
Which like,
it's not even like negative interest, it's just like she doesn't care all that much about him.
It is weird in the reset where it's like,
Yeah.
then they're a couple because it's, but I don't know. It is like the reset universe that we see for all of 4 seconds when Emporio is like shitting his pants because he's like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
The fear and the agony and the pain of seeing, I know we're jumping the gun, so we can get back to it again, but like, it's just like, it takes you so out of it. You're right there with Emporio, and then you're just trying to figure out what the fuck just happened.
Yeah.
And there's Jolene, and there's an Asui, and Emporio is still right here, and it's the beginning of the show again, but that's not her dickhead boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, I oh man. But yeah, Anasui's obsession with Jolene is just like, it's just weird. It's just there, and it's just weird.
Yeah. And by the way, if I ever refer to anything as the dub name, that's because I watched the dub. And even if I watched the dub with the English subtitles on to try to get the original translations, they would not give it to me. So, you know, if I get something wrong, just give me a little tap, you know.
Notorious B.I.G.
Yep.
Notorious Big.
Notorious Big. That's a good one.
That's top tier. I think Notorious Big is goated.
Made in Heaven actually is like, you know, that's just one of those like, you know, we turned it into like a slight pun, but like it still works kind of things, you know.
Wait, did they make it Made in Heaven like a MAID?
I assumed it was like Made in Heaven, right? Is the original Made in Heaven, or is it Made in Heaven? Because they do Made in Heaven in the...
They do Maiden?
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The original is Made in Heaven.
It's like Iron Maiden, Made in Heaven.
Huh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. That one's not bad. You know?
Right, because you just don't hear it. If you're just having a conversation, it's invisible.
Yeah, but like, there are some pretty bad ones. You know?
Flaccid Pancake.
Flaccid Pancake.
Like, come on, guys. Try a little bit harder. No, I can't even say that. You did exactly what you wanted to. You knew what you were doing. Fuck you.
Just get somebody to go over to UMG, okay? And sort all the names out, and, you know.
Warner Brothers has to have some connection with a large majority of these bands.
Yeah, Warner Brothers is one of the big record labels. And then just like get Universal in the group, you know, in the group chat, you know, CBS Records. Or
hey, Universal, you want some of this JoJo's money? We're about to put scary monsters on this bitch. We're about to put Hey Ya in JoJo's Part 7. Do you want some fucking JoJo's money or not?
Yeah. How long do you think it's going to take Araki before he references Champloo?
I haven't been keeping up with Part 9, so it may have already happened.
Holy shit, it's Good Luck,
keep
babe.
On dancing in the pink pony club.
Holy shit, it's Bedchem. But yeah, so back to Pucci, or back to Jotaro, importantly, is Jotaro's
he's no longer
back.
lobotomized. We got his discs.
Yep, they got his discs. He got out of the fucking, you know,
They took him out of the back to tank.
They took him out of the little crotch thing that they show in the opening. I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know if I want to know all of its utilities, but
the Speedwagon Foundation does magic, dude.
That's the real sadness, is that like the Speedwagon Foundation is going to be gone now.
Yeah, the Speedwagon Foundation is gone now.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Speedwagon Foundation.
Unless there's going to be a Speedwagon in Part 7.
There's not a Speedwagon in Part 7. There's a Zeppelin in part 7.
Okay, that's something. But, you know,
He's actually better than William, if you believe it or not.
I can believe it because, you know, William was fine. He was neat, not that impressive. But, yeah, Jotaro is back. He gets to do some Star Platinum, the world, shit. But, like, you know, after a couple of times, it's like, that shit don't work anymore.
Right, he's been in the back of the tank, and he's old and decrepit, and he hasn't used Star Platinum in however long Jolene's been in prison because he's been in a coma. And also, it turns out that stop time doesn't really work when time isn't doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah, because now Sea Moon has evolved again into
we've gone from White Snake to Sea Moon to finally
Made in Heaven. Which, like, they yada yada or they just speed up the process of it because it's like, well, actually, if I go like 20 feet into the air, you know, then you know, that'll be the correct coordinates a little sooner or whatever, some bullshit.
Right, exactly. He's like, well, you know, I did flip gravity, but gravity's doing its thing kind of on its own. But like, if I can control gravity, I can just be where I need to be already.
Yeah. Which, by the way, this episode is dropping on a new moon, I noticed.
Oh, no way? That's dope.
No, actually, it's waning gibbous. Fuck you.
Fuck you. Fuck
you. But, yeah. Star Platinum don't work.
If you are watching this episode and Josh has not turned that segment into a clip on TikTok, I need you to go into his inbox and tell him to do it.
Yeah, beat the shit out of me.
But yeah, so Jotaro's back. He gets to do jack shit. He does make best friends with a dolphin.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of inevitable. It's fucked. It's already over.
Yeah, the world starts like speeding up, and like I actually am satisfied with the way they explain it, where it's like organisms don't feel any of this shit, but like anything that is dead material is just speeding up, right? So it's like, you know, if you have fucking implanted teeth or whatever, that shit's falling out, you know. If you
have a pacer,
if you have a pacer, sorry, you're dead. You know, at a certain point, gravity becomes so fucked that, like, you know, everybody's clothes get ripped off. Which, you know, I could have done with less of that. But...
I mean, I'm no NASA scientist, but like, if gravity be fucked up, your clothes probably do come off. I don't know.
Asking the wrong guy, but. And then eventually it's just like, well, now we're literally just seeing like the universe cave in on itself, you know?
Yeah.
Which, like, back to the thing I was saying earlier, my understanding of how the universe is going to die is just that, like, everything is going to get so far away that, like, all energy just dissipates, right?
Right. I mean, I'm
that's my understanding of it. But this is almost the opposite, where it's like everything's
the heat death
going
of
to...
all stars.
Yeah.
So either, like, I mean, it's processes of entropy. So it's either... I mean, at least from our purview, the sun explodes and everything around it is destroyed.
Yeah.
Or everything gets so far away from everything else that it's like, even if you're on a planet that could sustain life, that planet is not getting energy from its closest orbiting sun.
Yeah.
Or star, I guess. And just can't sustain anything anymore.
Yeah. But, like, the way that they were just like... I mean, I guess if it was, like, a big enough... you know, star dies that creates a big enough black hole that everything gets sucked back in.
Sure.
You know, then maybe that's how a new universe gets born. But
or like, even if it was like a culmination of several stars, like if in proximity a big enough black hole was created in the Milky Way galaxy, it could suck in other stars, which would just become mass of that black hole.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, if there's a big enough black hole that can, like, snowball effect into sucking everything back up, then that's one thing. But, like, you know, I don't know if that's how it works. But, you know, I'm not a scientist again. So.
I have a very fundamental understanding of this, and it's only because I used to read The History of the Universe by Stephen Hawking for fun when I was in high school.
Gotcha.
That was before I stopped knowing how to read anything other than picture books.
Yeah, I saw Interstellar in IMAX. But yeah, like, so the universe, collapses in on itself. It is then like reborn into another universe, and it's like, I guess like the idea is that like if the same explosion happens, then the same things are gonna happen, and it's all like kind of predetermined. So it's like the same planets are going to be made, and therefore the same life and the same people and the same events will happen because of that. Which like that's a whole lot of like is there any free will kind of bullshit?
Right. Is there any self-determination or
which like I don't know. I don't really care all that much about that.
Fate is a really big thing in JoJo's, and the end of part 6 is actually the beginning of kind of like the next arc of the series is kind of, it is not the same universe. I will go ahead and say the end of part 6 and the start of part 7, different canonical universes.
That's definitely apparent in the last few minutes of this episode, where it's like, like even when, Emporio is brought back and he's like, oh shit, I'm back in the prison. And he goes into the room where Jotaro and Jolene are standing off. It's like, they're not even the same Jotaro and Jolene. They look different.
Right.
Right? Like, it's literally just like that little subtle thing where it's like, yeah, this is a new universe. This is entirely different.
And so the understanding that I have of what happened when the universe reset, I can't remember the exact dynamics of it, but Weather Report took Made in Heaven from Pucci and gave it to Emporio.
Oh.
And Emporio reset the universe without Pucci in it.
Okay.
The only way that the universe could exist without being reset, without the destruction of the universe, without any of the things that we saw, the only way things could be good is a universe without Pucci.
Yeah.
And so that is the only thing that was
without
changed.
the final last like remnant of Dio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without specifically Made in Heaven.
Yeah.
So the world is reset with that being the only change, and that change is where those butterfly effects of Jolene being a different person and Jotaro being a different person, and like, because it all goes back, they didn't have to deal with Dio.
Yep, exactly. And like, presumably this is the universe in which we'll go all the way back to fucking Cowboy times, and we'll see how that resulted in what we're seeing right now. No, they're different universes. Really?
They're not connected.
Okay, that's weird. I assumed that this was like the justification for why we're in a new universe at that point. So like, no, this is just like setting up that there's going to be new universes, and then we're going to a third universe. What? Oh,
You're overthinking it. You're entirely overthinking it. This is the end of the Dio story.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it. It's just the end of that. It is not to set up multiverses. It is not to set up new worlds or none of that. So, it is literally just the end of that story arc. This is a new story arc in a new world.
Okay.
Brick wall, big line, brick wall, separated.
That's insane. Just to be like, okay, we're ending this entire arc and entire, like, kind of like this canon that I've created with the introduction of the multiverse. And then it's like, okay, I'm creating a new thing that is kind of tangentially related to this, but it's not in this or in the multiverse in any other way. It's completely different. That's insane.
There are things that cross over in the sense that, like, Johnny is the new universe's Jonathan. There are parallels There are similarities. There are things that, like, if you have watched all of what we've already seen,
Okay.
there are callbacks. There are things that will make more sense. There are things that are easier to understand with the context we have. Mm-hmm. There's a brick wall. It's a new universe.
Okay.
It's not even related to the new universe at the end of part 6.
Okay. All right. That is crazy. But, yeah, I mean, what else could I expect? Yeah, like, you know, and, like, to bring it back to, like, before they reset the universe, I actually do like that, like, before the whole universe resets and we're done with these incarnations of these characters, we've been following the whole arc, it's like, we do get to see, like, some resolutions between them, right? We resolved the Jolene and Jotaro thing, where they finally, like, come a little bit to terms with how they,
right.
You know, like, you know, that's really good. And then, like, you know, like, we finally get a thing where it's like, fucking, you know, Anastasia, right? Anasui.
They call him Anastasia in the dub, yes.
Yeah, well, Anasui is able to, like, finally convince Jolene to, you know, like, kind of loosely say yes, and he's like, okay, that's good enough.
If we get out of this, you want to go get dinner? If we get out of this, I will do jumping jacks with my shirt off.
Yeah, and, like, just... But, like, they finally, like, resolve some of those things before the big universe reset. And I feel like that's kind of one of the things that, like, you know, some of these stories forget when they do these crazy things is that, like, I want to see these particular characters resolve some of their shit before.
And they do get those genuine character resolutions of the, like, arcs that they have been set on. And there's kind of, like, I am in two minds about this aspect of it because, like, while we do get that resolution, I want to see these characters allowed to be fully actualized in what they want. And we don't get that. There's that bittersweet element of, like, these are not the people we know.
Yeah.
These are different people. And their lives are good. They are allowed to live happy, quiet, peaceful lives.
Yeah.
But they're not who we knew.
Yeah. You know, fucking Anasui's a pimp now, I guess. Or at least dressed like one.
Everyone's dressed. It's JoJo's. Everybody's
That's true.
Like
everyone's kind of dressed like a pimp in the show.
You look at Bruno Bucciarati and you tell me that man's not a pimp.
Yeah, he's a pimp. But yeah, and that's kind of where we leave things off. Is like, you know, Emporio is literally the only one who, like, remaining who comprehends anything that's been going on. But, like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like he has that pain within him, but he's finally able to accept that this shit is over.
Right.
Yeah. So, and they all drive off into the sunset, roundabout the end. You know,
roundabout the end.
Yeah. And
it will be continued.
It will be continued.
It will be. I may be speaking too soon. They could come around on JoJo's Day and say, "Fuck you guys. It's just the manga." I don't think that's happening. I think we're getting more JoJo's.
I think they would at least put out a teaser, right?
If we get a teaser trailer, I'm gonna shit. I'm going to freak out. I knew it was coming, and I kind of cast it from my mind because I'm like, but you reminding me that it's literally within the next 24 hours. I'm freaking out, dude.
I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew. But yeah, if we're gonna. You briefly proposed that we do a wrap-up episode on Patreon, but I kind of want to do it now, you know? Just, like, wrap it up on the main feed, because it's been on the main feed the whole time.
Sure.
So, you all right with that?
I guess. I don't know if I'm, like, super prepared, but if you've got something to go in on.
We've got, like, you know, we've got 6 parts and 6 JoJos to rank, you know? We don't really need to think all that hard about it, you know? So, I mean... just to conclude my thoughts on JoJo as a whole, like I said before, it's like it's not like every moment is an upbeat moment, right?
No.
Like I think, there can be some slowdowns in some parts, like, like part 1's a little bit basic, then part 3, like, I think we don't spend enough time with Jotaro as a character to like get a sense of him. But they make up for that in in other
Part 4
parts,
and
in
part
part
6.
4 and part 6, right? And like and then part 5, like I know that you have a really soft spot for like how they depict Giorno in that, but like to me he's a little bit
A lot
dull.
of people call him a Mary Sue. He's kind of, and I get it.
Yeah, like I get the whole like he's Dio and Jonathan in one person, and like I get that. I just wish they explored it a little more.
There are times when they pull it really well. For the most part, it's underexplored. I agree.
Yeah, but like again, it's just like we said earlier, it's like there's nothing else like it, and like it is just it's again, it's taking that whole like the I hate to keep saying superhero thing because it's of course obviously in a lineage of fucking shonen people with powers beating the shit out of each other.
Right.
Shit.
We say superheroes because in the United States, the only thing that we have that's like stories about people with powers that are not mundane.
Yeah.
All we've got is fucking Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Aquaman, superheroes and spandex. It's all we've got. Whereas like Japan and just the medium of manga has this kind of rich storytelling canon of all kinds of different and unique power systems.
Yeah. And like even in American media, when something tries to like not be in that like that spandex storyline and like
it starts pulling on like classic European fairy tale magic or
but like
JJ or not JJK J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah,
exactly.
But like even when they have those type of abilities, like even when that kind of thing comes out, people frame it as like, oh, this is just a different type of superhero story. It's not your dad's whatever.
Right.
But like but just to say that, it's like it's different from all of that other stuff because like we said, like it explores the powers to their absolute limits and just like thinks outside the box in these insane ways. And it's just
it's peak.
It's peak.
It's peak.
It's wonderful. I love it.
It's not literally perfect. There are obviously flaws. I feel like we've done a fairly good job documenting the issues we have with each part.
But it's got the fundamentals.
It's got so much of the fundamentals. It's got the extra juice on top of that.
Yeah.
It's got the style. It's got the fucking. It's got the balls to do shit that you never see anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's crazy and it's amazing for that.
Yeah, and like to bring it back to like some of the production stuff, it's like the animation is excellent, if not above board for everything it is trying to do.
Literally,
right?
I mean, like, and people. I will say it's not the most phenomenally animated thing anybody's ever put on a screen. If we talk about this in comparison to any Miyazaki film,
or
you
even
see the
Science
flaws.
Song,
but it's like it's bringing the style of JoJo's.
Yeah.
It is so serious about adapting what makes this manga stand apart from everything else in the field, that it's just like I haven't ever seen anything that looks like this, that feels like this, that sounds like this.
Yeah, it's just great. It's fantastic stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to decide if I want to put it at like a high 8 or a low 9, but I feel like you're gonna say like 9 or 10.
9.5 is too low.
So like it'll probably average out to a 9 on my anime list for us.
Sure.
But yeah, like it's great. It's wonderful. I'm happy that you brought this.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it. Like, and we are about 200 episodes in now.
Yeah.
This has been a long project.
It has.
And I'm glad you've been willing to like stick with me on it because it is I used to be like way more obnoxious about it, but
Really, you're telling me?
I know I'm already bad enough. But like, could you imagine me in high school freaking out about JoJo's?
Did you ever try to get a girl into it?
Into JoJo's?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few people.
I mean, like a girlfriend. Were you ever like, hey, this is my thing?
I mean,
Not to put you too far on blast.
well, yeah, like I mean, like I guess both the people I dated kind of around the time that I was getting into JoJo. I say both the people I dated, not at the fucking same time. Come on, guys. While I was like getting into JoJo's, I would kind of like, oh, you want to watch this episode, or like,
Yeah.
oh, the crazy shit just happened in the show I'm watching. But I never. I mean, like, I would talk about it with friends and shit. But I'm not the kind of person that tries to like push the thing that I'm
Yeah.
interested in onto somebody else. Like,
Yeah.
you'll have your own interests, and we'll kind of just like,
Yeah.
you either love the thing that I love or you don't, and we'll
Yeah.
find some middle ground
Yeah.
somewhere or whatever.
Or you love that I love the thing that I love, you know?
Right.
But like, yeah, you know, like 9 out of 10. Yeah. It's really good, really good. But do we want to start with the JoJo or the JoJos or the parts?
Rank the parts first. I
Rank
want to
the
hear your
parts.
ranking of the parts first.
Okay, I've had this in my head for a little while, and it's only slightly changed because of the ending to part 6. But
Okay.
you know, I'm gonna say
Go bottom to top.
bottom to top. All right, number 6 is part 5.
Okay.
Number 5 is part 1.
Okay.
Number 4 is part 3.
Okay.
Number 3 is part 6.
Okay.
Number 2 is part 2.
Okay.
And then number 1 is part 4.
Of course.
That's for me.
I'm very similar. I differ a little bit. I think from bottom to top, it's going to be part 3, part 1, part 5, part 2. Or sorry, part 3, part 1, part 6, part 5, part 2, part 4.
Okay. That's pretty good. Like, Joseph Joestar really getting in there, you know? Like, I actually like that we both have it pretty high because it's like, we do have to give a little bit of credit to the Hamon era, you know?
Part 2 is...
It's got everything other than the stands.
It's perfect. It
Yeah.
it is JoJo's.
Yeah.
When I think about JoJo's, inevitably one of the first like 3 characters that pops into my head every single time is Joseph Joestar. Every single time.
Yeah, and he's stuck around, right? Because, you know, he's in part 3 and part 4.
Right.
You know? And, like, we get to see different eras of him every time. And, like, you know, unlike Jotaro, who, like, was a little bit bland in his first part, but then he gets better as a supporting character, it's like, he was great from the start.
He was great from the start. And he obviously has, like, I think Araki baked in the most like obvious tangible character flaws into Joseph.
Yeah.
And you see kind of like just the progression of the way those things catch up with him and come back around to him. But then he just like he gets older and he's just like, sweet old grandpa, you did some fucked up shit, but hey man, here's an invisible baby in my credit card.
All right, let's get to the JoJo's then, unless you have anything to say about any of the other parts. I think it's just like, you know, it's like, to me, part 5 is just like, you know, it's not bad, but like, it has the problem where like, I don't find the main character all that compelling, and
Sure.
I think that the ending is a little bit flat.
Sure.
Right? You know, which I think, like, even if you want to say that, like, Jonathan Joestar is a little bit basic, you know, he's still, like, a good version of the basic good boy protagonist, right? And then, like, you know, it's just, like, a nice, clean, well-rounded arc on its own, you know?
Right.
Even if it's, you know, kind of simple in comparison to the other stuff. Because that's just, like, you know, vampires versus sun magic, you know? At that point. But it's still good for what it is, you know?
I mean, it's great.
It only suffers in comparison to the rest of it, which gets so much more insane and complicated.
Right. And I will say one of the things about part one is that it is a sticking point for a lot of people. A lot of people bounce off of JoJo's because they can't watch part one. And for me, it gets stronger with the more context you get from the later parts. Yeah. So it is elevated by everything else. Mm-hmm. But you're right. It is kind of buried by it as well because it's like it lays so much of the groundwork. It is so fundamental to kind of the narrative framework for the rest of what we see. Yeah. But at the same time, it is missing some of those more core elements that Araki evolves later into the parts.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's like the base under which everything else is made. It's the cream of the soup, you know?
It's the stone that the builder refused. Boondocks episode when?
Boondocks? I mean, every year has an April 1st. But, yeah, like, you know, and then what was the one I did? Part 3, we already covered our, you know, kind of issues with it. But that's still really fun. It introduces stands and, you know, like, those ones don't get super complicated the way that they start to in Part 4 and Part 5. But, like, you know, it's still like, you know, I like seeing people get beat the shit out of, you know, that's fun. You know, and then, you know, Part 6, cool, you know, kind of, like I said in the first one, is like, it's culmination of a lot of the things that's going on, but then, like, the ending, I think, suffers a little bit. But then Part 2 is peak and missing everything except stands, and then Part 4 is peak and has stands. So
Part 4 is peak and has stands.
Yeah.
Part 4 has a piece of paper that shoots you with a gun.
That's true.
Part 4 has aliens in it, dude.
That's true. Part 4 has a cat that, you know, turns into a plant, and then you put the plant in your body.
There's this weird fucking cat outside,
and it can.
Looks like grandma, the fucking thing.
And like it can, and then you can shoot bubbles that explode. It's wonderful. Best part. All right, JoJo's. I want you to start because I start with my ranking.
Giorno, Jotaro, Jonathan, Jolene, Josuke, Joseph.
Okay. That makes sense. I kind of get where you're coming from there. But for me, I'm going to go Jonathan, Giorno, Jotaro, Josuke,
okay,
Jolene, Joseph.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I think, like, you know, Jotaro gets a lot of credit for, like, you know, like, getting better over the course of the arcs.
And he does, which is why I kind of hesitated at first to, like, I didn't want to put him at 6 because, like, in Part 3, I just, like, I can't think of anybody that I like less than him in Part 3. But then he does evolve as a character as we go through it, until the point that we get like this really sweet moment between him and Jolene.
Yeah, but like, but then Jolene like kind of comes in and she's kind of the Jotaro that like should have been from the start.
He should have been. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she's just like, she's got the same like hard assness, but she's got a little bit more spunk and personality, and I like that about her. And you know, Joseph is the GOAT, undeniably.
Joseph is the GOAT.
Right, like, you know, just strong and gets stronger over time.
The first thing he does is beat up cops who are being racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, fucking based.
Yeah, and then he breaks into fucking Nazi prison wearing drag, you know.
He fucks. He, like, canonically, we know more than anyone else in the series, except for maybe Dio, he fucks.
Yeah. And then, like, you know, where did I put Jonathan? I put Jonathan at the bottom. You know, like, again, he's not bad, but he's basic. You know, he's just like,
he's good boy.
He's good boy. You know,
he's brave and he has manners.
Yeah, he's like the golden retriever at your friend's house who has no personality. Who's just always the good boy.
Hey, yo, check this out. Beer. And then he opens the fridge and brings you a beer, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
fuck yeah.
Well, not even that. Like, like, because I feel like that would be a bit of personality. It's like, oh, you're smart, too. It's like, Jonathan's not that smart. He's a little bit of a dummy.
He's a little bit of a dummy. He's got the sword of luck and pluck.
Yeah, and like... And Giorno falls a little bit flat for me, but he does have, like, a bit of the psychopath energy that is like... I understand how, you then became mafioso.
Right. He was never...
Better mafioso than there was before, but still.
It's like, it's not a dream. It's not even a plan. It's just, he said it, and the world willed itself into its shape for him. Like, he's that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and then... Josuke is, like, he's funny and interesting, but, like, he doesn't have a lot going on psychologically in a way that's, like,
I can't separate Josuke from Okuyasu.
Yeah, that's true.
Which...
They're a team.
As much as we get, like, Joe Bros going on with, like, obviously, Jonathan and Speedwagon and... Joseph and Caesar and Josuke and Kakyoin.
Yeah.
As much as we get that and everything else.
You mean Jotaro and Kakyoin?
Jotaro. I said Josuke and Kakyoin, didn't I? Josuke and Okuyasu are just the dumbest motherfuckers that have ever walked the planet. Yeah, and they're the friends that, like, they're not really that stupid. Okuyasu's kind of dumb, but, like, they're not that stupid until they get within proximity of one another.
Yeah, it's like,
and then they're like a force of nature.
Yeah, it's like, it's like when you have an 8 and an 8 together. It's like, okay, you think it's going to be 16? No, it's 64. They've doubled. They multiply by each other.
Exactly.
Exponentially worse.
Fucking Josuke falling out of a window when he hears that Koichi has a girlfriend. Like, it's just like, I can't separate those two from each other. And thinking about the strong moments of those two, I'm just like, wow.
But yeah, that's, I don't know, maybe we'll do a Patreon episode where we're like, okay, we're going to spend 3 hours just tier ranking all of the stands. That would be insane.
Least favorite stand.
Least favorite stand?
Least favorite stand.
I think it's Silver Chariot.
Really?
Yeah, because, like, it's in part 3, so it's, like, really basic, just, like, fucking beat the shit out of somebody kind of stand. But, like, then when they do the whole Requiem shit, and it's, like, just, like, not really elaborated upon, and, like, we don't even really get to see what it does. It's just... don't care for it. And that's kind of my first impulsive thing. Maybe if I, like, really dug into it and was like, oh, here's this one from part 4 that really sucked ass,
I've got a triple decker, and I don't think I can separate any of these 3 from one another. They're all from part 3. The doll.
Yeah.
That
I don't know.
Polnareff has to fight.
That one kind of has a bit of a, like, kind of like Child's Play kind of personality to it.
Sure.
Like, fucking Chucky shit.
I mean, sure. I just like, And then Alessi and Strength.
Alessi and Strength?
Yeah. Alessi is the one that has the shadow that turns you into a kid, and Strength is the pedophile monkey with a boat.
That's, yeah, like, just anything that makes me confront a naked child, I don't really like. I guess Made in Heaven falls in that, too. I don't know, actually, like, the worst things to me are, like, the stands that, like, kind of break everything, like, I know that, like, part of the fun for some of, like, the stand comparisons is, like, like, what's the most busted thing, what's the thing that could defeat anything.
Right.
But, like, to me, like, part of the fun is, like, the not knowing how powerful anything is, because like Araki could come up with any incredible scenario where something is either weaker or stronger than what you think it is.
Right.
And when, I don't know, when Giorno can just be like, okay, now I put you in like fucking, fucking time reality fuckery, and you're just gonna suffer for the rest of eternity. That's busted to me in a way where it's like, I don't even care anymore. I'm just
GER, baby.
I'm just like, maybe it's Golden Wind Requiem, just because like it's the most busted in a way that
I don't even disagree with
appreciate.
you. I think Golden Wind Requiem is like,
It's just a question of like,
it's just a win button, which is just
Yeah.
like, it's exactly what I'm criticizing Superman for earlier.
Yeah.
It's just like not interesting. If you just have a win button, the only way to lose the fight is by not pressing the win button.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna say if I have to do 3, it's definitely it's strength,
Yeah.
because that one's just the worst, and it doesn't serve any narrative purpose or like do anything interesting the way that Alessi does.
Which, like, even then, you can give him the credit of that, right?
Yeah,
But
I
Strength
give him
is
that
just a
one.
pedophile monkey with a boat.
Yeah, exactly. And then Golden Wind Requiem, just for being so busted, win button, I don't care. And then, like I said earlier, if I'm going like ally
Silver
ally
Chariot.
stands, it's it's Silver Chariot. I just don't care.
I just don't care.
And also, like, I don't like, by proxy, I don't like how Polnareff takes over so much in part 3, so this is part of my Polnareff hatred.
Sure.
Polnareff is a character that, like, I liked the character, but, like, every single thing that he does to the stories that he's involved in, I do not care for. There's the great meme where it's like, like the main plot versus the side plot where the guy's up on the rockets, and Polnareff is the guy on the rocket every time.
Yeah. Polnareff is the Zorro of JoJo's.
Polnareff side plot.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
That's been JoJo's.
that has been JoJo's.
now.
We are going to do more JoJo's content.
Yeah, there will be. Yeah, when part 7 happens, we'll get into that. If we decide to go into some of like the spin-off manga for a Patreon episode or something like that,
There will be more JoJo's content, if not on the main page, which if we don't cover part 7 when that comes out, I'm going to blow my brains out.
it will be because you have died beforehand. If we don't cover part 7, and I haven't been able to figure out how to like grab your stand, Ghost, from the sky and pull you back down here and be like, "All right, it's part 7 time, you fucker."
Part 7 time. But at the very least, we will reveal our favorite stands on Patreon at some point in some stand-related content we may or may not be planning.
Yeah, that might be a little like a May bonus mini episode or something like that. That isn't about any content or anything, but like,
Sure.
I've actually been thinking that we should move to monthly on Patreon.
I think we should.
Yeah, just like give people more stuff, like, and plus, like we said before, it's very cheap. It's $1 a month.
$1
For $1 a month,
And
we get
it's an
our
American product.
American product.
American product, no tariff.
It's an American service, no less. So, like, I don't know, maybe we get negative tariff and the government will pay us.
Yeah, the government will pay you to pay us
Yeah.
for How to Otaku.
Exactly.
It'll work out to like 25 cents or something on your tax breaks.
Look, we haven't been the nicest to Mr. President in the past, but I just want to say, if he's listening right now, if you want to subsidize us, I will shut my mouth. Okay?
I would prefer,
you can buy me.
I would prefer the Aldi subsidization. I will say right here, right now, I would prefer the Aldi subsidization. Donald Trump, you cannot pay me to say anything nice about you. But you might be able to pay me to stop saying so many terrible things about you.
You can buy me for money.
You can pay me money to stop saying voraciously false things about you.
But yeah, on Patreon, we're probably going to have that episode about stands and just like a stand tier ranking or just like favorite stands or something like that.
Just a general stand discussion.
You know.
Which stand would beat which stand in a fight. Honestly, it's just an excuse to talk about more JoJo's. It doesn't even have to be severely formatted as stand versus stand. Just like another JoJo's episode, a bonus-sode, a mini-sode.
Yeah, maybe we can just be like, what's the craziest stand battle or whatever, you know? But like, yeah, just like, you know, that'll be on Patreon probably sometime in May. Then on the main feed, we're getting into Shinichiro
Watanabe.
Shinichiro Watanabe.
There you go.
There we go. But yeah, we're starting with Cowboy Bebop. We're redoing it. So we're going to cover all of the episodes on the main feed.
Yes.
All as one thing. I'm not going to listen to the old episode just because I don't want to be like, oh, I said that before. I can't say it again. But like, if I end up
you have
repeating myself,
listened
that's
to the
why.
old episode and we repeat ourselves,
Yeah.
broken clock's right twice a day, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, and then after that, we're going to be doing Samurai Champloo, Space Dandy, Terran Resonance, Carol and Tuesday, and Lazarus, which has just started airing on Adult Swim.
Yes, sir.
First episode, looking pretty strong. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, Adult Swim production IG do not fuck us over again.
I completely forgot who we were dealing with until the first episode came back around, and I was like, wait, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
And now I'm scared. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. You know, that's all going to be coming out in the next few months. You know, April 28th is Cowboy Bebop.
Yes.
That's the important thing.
April 28th is Cowboy Bebop. That's the start of our Shinichiro Watanabe coverage.
On June, we're doing some of his ancillary stuff. Cowboy Bebop the movie, shorts, segments in anthology movies. I'll lay out. I'll do like hard research and find like as many available things as I can.
In the Bebop episode, we will tell you what all we will be covering in that Patreon episode. But we are doing as deep a dive as we can.
Yeah.
Excuse me, that Dr. Pepper is really fucking my shit up. Shinichiro Watanabe deep dive. It's going to be the next couple months. It'll be pretty much all we're covering.
Yeah.
Our Patreon episodes will branch out after we finish that kind of anthology thing that we're going to do. So if you want content not related to Shinichiro Watanabe, Jesus.
Or maybe even not related to anime, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Check out the Patreon. There's extra stuff over there, and we're doing our new big project we're starting.
And you'll get video versions of these episodes ad-free. So if you're watching on YouTube and you keep getting interrupted every 10 minutes by an unskippable 15-second ad, $1 a month.
$1 prevents that.
Yeah.
We're on Spotify. You know? So like
Spotify.
Enough with the spiel. We do enough of the spiel. Follow us on Blue Sky. You can find us at howtootaku.com on Blue Sky.
Yep.
Howtootaku.com is our website. You can check that out for schedules, release dates.
Chippy, anything you want.
Chippy. That'll also give you links to our social medias where you can watch the other episodes. That's kind of your one-stop shop right there. Yeah. You can follow me on Blue Sky at brokenlive.howtootaku.com.
And you can follow me on Blue Sky as well at jdthorn.howtootaku.com. And yeah, I think that's it. Until next time, you know.
Oh, Josh, I get to say the thing, and it makes sense this time. See you, Space Cowboy.